Hi. So, now that we've refamiliarized ourselves with ISLM model, we can extend it quite easily into the case of the open economy. So, look, this is what we had previously. So, this is closed economy ISLM. Now we are opening the economy, and what is happening? Okay, first thing that we need to introduce is in the IS function, because now we've got we've got open economy, we got a fourth component of aggregated expenditures. This is trade balance. So this is a difference between exports and imports. But we're going to write it as current account. Current account in our simplified model is going to be a trade balance, just like we did within the monetary model, right? So we assume that the only part of current account is of course exports minus imports. So here we have a result of this. So we express now this current account as a function of exchange rate and you know what? At this moment, at this particular moment, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to start with Q. Remember, Q was real exchange rate. And the second thing that influences current account is income. Okay, we will go back. We will explain why is it like that in a second. But let's first finish the entire model. Because look, now IS curve is done. We've just added trade balance, which we're going to call current account, and we know that it is a function of real exchange rate and GDP. Now, with Allen curve, we don't need to modify anything. This is domestic. This is domestic money market. It doesn't need to have any international components, but we need to add a third equation. The third equation is an equation that is giving us equilibrium in exchange rate market. So this is an equation that is going to reflect demand and supply for our currency. And look, this equation, as the name suggests, is BP. From balance of payments, and it's going to be made out of simplified balance of payments. It's going to be current account, exactly the same current account, so trade balance that we see over here. And capital. Capital account, we also going to simplify extensively. Capital account, of course, is reporting trade in assets. Right? We're going to assume, for simplicity, that the only type of asset we've got are bonds, because it's the easiest to deal with them. And look, our current account, capital account, is going to be a function of domestic interest rate and world interest rate. Now, current account and capital account, of course, will be everything we've got. So all they register all the transactions with the outside world. For equilibrium in balance of payments, of course, and to get equilibrium exchange rate, we need this to be equal to 0. But look, we've already discussed flexible exchange rates, but we also discussed fixed exchange rate. And we need to also take care of this in our model. Now, if we want to have any intervention by the central bank, we need to introduce foreign reserves. And this is what we're going to do. And look, but what I'm going to introduce over here is actually change in the level of foreign reserves. Look, I'm going to be discussing each of these components in detail. So for now, let's see what we've got over here. Okay. And this system of 3 simultaneous equations constitutes a complete model. But, of course, we need to maintain the assumptions that we have. So, first assumption, let's start with the second. Look, we're going to assume, so main assumptions, we are going to assume that we've got a small country. What does it mean that the country is small? It means that it has no impact on world interest rate or world prices. But of course, we're going to assume in a second that prices are fixed. So what it means to us is that interest rate at home in domestic is not going to affect what is happening outside. So look, we are basically now going to assume that we've got a tiny country and everything else outside this country we're going to call the world. So this is it's like you can think about it as a model in which you have 2 countries, one very, very tiny and one very, very big. And what happens in this small country has very little impact on what happens in the rest of the world. So when you think about it in exactly the same way in the real world, when you have a small country, I don't know, like Czech Republic, Belgium, Austria, what happens in those countries individually will have very little impact on what is happening in the rest of the world. If something happens in China, in European Union as a whole, or Euro area as a whole, or in the United States, situation might be a little different. But we are considering like an average small country. Okay, and of course the second assumption we're going to undertake here is that we're going to have fixed prices. Okay, look, we already said in the previous video, what does fixed prices mean for us? It means that nominal interest rate is equal to real interest rate, which of course is very important over here and over here. But it has a second very, very important consequence. Okay, and this consequence is associated with real exchange rate. Because look, real exchange rate is defined as S, which is a nominal exchange rate, which I'm going to define in a second, times price level in the rest of the world divided by price level at home. So, of course, look, in this setting, we should right away see that S is price of world currency expressed in domestic currency. Right? So, in other words, how many units of domestic currency we need to pay for 1 unit of foreign currency, of world currency. I'm going to be using foreign and world interchangeably, they mean the same thing. So everything that is not domestic, what is not home. Okay, so look, in this case, what do we have here? This is a price level at home, this is price level in the rest of the world, but of course in order to compare them, we first need to exchange prices in the rest of the world into our own currency, and by doing so, we are getting Q, so real exchange rate. Real exchange rate is actually telling us about competitiveness of our economy. And look, this is why we put the Q over here, because if our goods are going to be more competitive, so the Q goes up, right? Because either prices in our country fall or prices in the rest of the world go up, or our exchange rate appreciates, of course we will have it will affect exports and imports. The higher the Q, the more we export, the less we import. But look, right away we said, in the second assumption we said that we've got fixed prices. So look, in this case, P and PW are constant. So do we really need them in the analysis? No. And look, for simplicity, we could, so the only thing that can change here is nominal exchange rate. So instead of putting inside S times PWP, let's assume that price level at home and price level in the rest of the world are equal to one another, and they are equal to 1. Look, if the ratio of the two would be any different number, it wouldn't change anything. We would just always have to write this expression instead of just S. And look, with these assumptions, so combining this and this, we get that real exchange rate is equal to nominal exchange rate. So that was what I was writing originally, but I actually went one step ahead of myself. And here, of course, we're going to have spot nominal exchange rate. Okay, now, let's remember, I know that I hope at this moment this is obvious to you, but with exchange rate defined in such a way as going up means depreciation, while as going down is appreciation. Okay, so you see now we know a little bit more, and look, with fixed prices we see that our model simplified quite significantly. We can use nominal exchange rates instead of real exchange rates, and of course nominal and real interest rates are the same. So again, not a problem for us. Okay. So look, at this moment, we need to start to get a little bit deeper into all the new components that we have over here. And of course, let's start with current account. Current account is a trade bonds, right? So if I would, again, you see, I've written it as a general function of nominal exchange rate and income. So let's calculate the partial derivatives. Well, let's assume the signs of partial derivatives, to be perfectly honest. So, first, we've got partial derivative of current account with respect to nominal exchange rate. So what is happening to current account when we have depreciation? Well, our goods are becoming more competitive, so we should expect the trade balance improves, right? We are exporting more, we are importing less. Okay, but what was telling us that actually if exchange rate is depreciating, current account should improve? That was Marshall-Lerner condition. So look, we assume that Marshall-Lerner condition holds. So look, what depreciation is doing here, of course, it improves relative competitiveness of our goods, so we export more, we import less, and consequently, this leads to improvement of increase in current account. Okay, now the second partial derivative. Well, of course, if we would have appreciation, the opposite is true. We import more, we export less, current account worsens. Now, the second partial derivative we can calculate over here is partial derivative of current account with respect to income. This one should be negative. Why? Look, because if income in our country increases, we can purchase more goods from outside the world. In other words, the higher is the income in our country, the higher is demand for world goods. So our imports must be increasing with no impact on exports. So in this case, we would see that this worsens trade balance, so it worsens current account. Okay, so now that we've dealt with current account, let's go to capital account. Okay, let me erase this. We will need probably some more space for that. And, well, I told you that capital account in our simple model basically is where we notice all the transactions associated with trade in bonds. So, interest rate will have definitely an impact on trade in bonds. And let's again see it through the perspective of partial derivative. Now look, partial derivative of capital account with respect to interest rate should be positive. Why is that? Look, remember, partial derivative means other things being equal, ceteris paribus, right? What is important to us in this context is if interest rate at home increases while interest rate in the rest of the world stays the same, what happens? Look, what should happen in this scenario? If interest rate in our country is increasing while in the rest of the world it stays the same, it means that rate of return on our bonds is going up, right? In comparison to, related to world bonds, world assets. Well, it generally will, I might say asset, but even if I say asset, it means bonds. Because we simplify it. So, look, if our assets are now bringing the higher rate of return, what should this lead to? Well, of course, now people, residents of the world, so foreigners, will want to purchase more of our assets, right? Our bonds. Our citizens will not want to purchase foreign assets, foreign bonds, because relative competitiveness of our assets improve, right? They bring higher rate of return. So, what is going to happen? Well, foreigners will want to buy more of our assets. This is not another thing I'm going to say here is not directly associated with this partial derivative, but it is important to see the mechanics of this at work at this part. Is that look, if foreigners want to purchase more of domestic bonds, what they need to do? Can you buy bond denominated in Polish zloty using euros? No, you cannot buy American Treasury bill denominated in dollars using euros or any other currency. So if you want to buy domestic assets, you need to exchange world currency for domestic currency. So every time when we will have a situation where our assets are becoming more competitive, we will also observe increase in the demand for our currency, because this is the only way through which we can purchase those assets. But keeping that aside, look, what is this happening? What is happening if interest rate in our country is increasing? Well, foreigners are purchasing more of our bonds. So what is happening is that we observe an inflow of money into the economy. And we see that now foreigners hold more of our bonds. So world holdings of our, remember, those are claims on our future income, right? Because those interests on these bonds need to be repaid in the future. So so the face value of the bond must be paid in the future. So in this case, we see that on one hand, we will see inflow of money into domestic economy, but we will observe at the same time that foreigners are holding more and more of our assets, our bonds. And basically, this is the entire mechanism of capital account that is of interest to us. And look, by the same token, we would see that the opposite must hold true, that if we differentiate capital account with respect to world interest rate, this derivative should be negative. Why? If world interest rate goes up, it means that now we would like to, domestic residents would like to purchase more of foreign assets. So there would be capital outflow of the economy. We would be holding more and more of their assets. And of course, this would also translate to higher demand for their currency. Okay, so now we know everything we need to know about capital account. So the only thing left is F with the dot. And before we define what F with the dot is, we should start by defining F. And look, F are foreign reserves so those are reserves of world currency held by domestic central bank. So what F represents, foreign reserves, is the amount of foreign currency, of world currency, that central bank keeps locked in a safe. What do I mean by keeps locked in a safe? This is the money that is not on the market. So it does not participate, it does not circulate, it does not participate in the market. It has no impact on the market as long as it's in the safe. But central bank can, in principle, take those foreign reserves and use them to make interventions. Why would central bank like to make intervention? Well, the central bank would like to, for example, influence the level of exchange rate. So if central bank would like to devaluate our currency, what could central bank do? It could take foreign currency from the market and pay for it with domestic currency. But if central bank would like to evaluate with our currency, it should do the opposite. It should take foreign reserves and purchase our currency from the market. Because remember, the more of our currency is on the market, the higher the supply, the lower its value. And the same with foreign currency. But look, there is a trap with this. Foreign reserves are not infinite. At some point, central bank may run out of foreign reserves. And in this case, intervention is no longer possible. Okay, so we know what are foreign reserves, right? We know they are over here, but they have one additional element, a dot. But we already know what a dot is. Dot represents time derivative. So, why we have here a dot over F? Because look, when reserves are in a safe in a central bank, they are not influencing balance of payments. Only if central bank buys or sells the reserves, this is the only situation in which it will affect situation on the exchange rate market. So this is why only changes in foreign reserves matter to what is happening to balance of payments. Okay, and let's consider two possibilities. Okay, because the third one is that F is 0, but it can be a F with a dot. So what if we've got first F lower than 0? What is central bank actually doing? Central bank in this situation buys domestic currency using foreign currency, world currency. What do I mean by that? Look, central bank is, for example, central bank believes that the value of our currency is too low. What central bank can do? Central bank can use the foreign reserves it has at its disposal, and central bank, by doing so, can purchase domestic currency out of the market and put this currency back into safe. So there is less of our currency, domestic currency on the market. There is more foreign currency on the market, which means that the relative value of currencies is changing. Now, value of our currency should go up, our currency should appreciate. But look, this also means that we have less and less and less foreign reserves. So, it cannot be done indefinitely. Okay, so if now we have opposite situation, so foreign reserves are growing, this means that our central bank is purchasing foreign currency using domestic currency. So what is happening as a result? Look, as a result, here the amount of our money on the market is increasing, right? So value of our money is going down, but foreign reserves of central bank are going up. So we could write here that if this is happening, what is happening to foreign reserves? It means that foreign reserves are going down. Over here, of course, foreign reserves are going up. But you know, within this model, the funny thing is that if foreign reserves go down, if foreign reserves go down, what does this imply for our domestic market? Look, if central bank is selling foreign reserves and purchasing with those foreign reserves our currency goes to central bank. So as foreign reserves are going down, our money supply also goes down. When foreign reserves go up, it means that central bank is using domestic currency to purchase foreign goods. So money supply of our currency goes up. Okay, and look, this is all when it comes to preliminaries about to ISLMPP model. Look, we know everything that is in the model at this moment. We know how each of these components work. What we need to do now is to put it together, calculate equilibrium, but we already did that. Of course, here finding the exact equilibrium is impossible because we have a general function, but what we can do, of course, is to draw this on the graph. And look, I'm going to only be showing you graphs and mechanisms that take place in the small economy in the short run. Okay, we will have 4 parts because we're going to start with monetary expansion under flexible exchange rates, then we're going to have fiscal expansion with flexible exchange rate, then we're going to move to fixed exchange rate, we're going to have monetary expansion and fiscal expansion. And this covers all the cases. Of course, once you know how to do expansion, you just need to do the opposite for contraction. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to start with monetary expansion. Take care.